Hello everyone, my name is Livia Durac. I am Professor PhD and I will present the aspects that I appreciate as relevant to the content of the article titled Aesthetics and Creativity, Identity Configurations. I will begin my presentation with some landmarks in the configuration of aesthetics. Approaches to the aesthetic universe consider the forms of manifestation of human presence in which the conscious of the first existential meanings and senses was shaped in time, configuring forms of material and spiritual culture. The experience of the various aspects of reality was expressed through gestures and attitudes, through symbolic constructions, also through rituals and play. All these have brought a specific testimony on the spiritual and practical life of a community, respectively on the order that preserves solidarity and the process of life. The gradual process of understanding and differentiation of the artistic activity finds its expression in the changes that occur within ancient society, in the mentality and consciousness of that time, and in the new needs for expression. In ancient classification, the scope of so-called musical arts, poetry, music, and dance also included a series of sciences such as astronomy and architecture. For instance, Simonides of Chios, Simonides of Chaos, believed that dance is muted poetry and painting is talking poetry. On the other hand, Democritus sees the unity between crafts, architecture, and music in the act of imitation. Those related to crafts and plastic arts, such as painting, sculpting, and architecture, were a separate category. Plato will make the distinction between imitative arts and crafts. In the Greek philosopher's opinion, the former imitate imitation, while crafts imitate ideas seen as archetypes. Aristotle speaks of musical arts, music and poetry, versus plastical arts, sculpture, architecture. He also makes the distinction between poetry and history, respectively between poetry and philosophy, while approaching the nature of imitation in art. In the medieval ages, the difference between musical arts and technical arts is mainly expressed through the opposition between free arts and mechanical arts. Seneca, for instance, in his work Letters to Lucilius, divides arts into two categories: free arts, grammar, rhetoric, geometry, music, and poetry, versus mechanical or non-free arts, painting, sculpture, etc. During Renaissance, the purpose of the confrontation between arts is to enhance the superiority of one art in relation to another. The issue of style will take an important place in Cicero's and Quintilian's works, but also in Michelangelo's and Dante Alighieri's thinking. Marked by complex social changes, the modern era opens the way to new sensibilities where the criterion of reason takes an important place. The transition towards modernity is relevant by that the new world starts to become artistically different from the old one. The socioeconomic, axiological, and scientific mutations drew some new horizons of meanings. As such, aesthetics get new accents for perfection and delight of the senses, meant to ensure the balance of the spirit in this world of transition and deceit. Now, the second component of the article is creativity, about which I will start with some theoretical elements. Creativity refers to the novelty level that man brings in his ideas and in his actions and in his creations. Since ancient times, people were interested in a better understanding of this phenomenon. For ancient Greeks, for example, the protecting spiritual force was an individual's daimon. Later, in Plato's vision, one can find the idea of creation as an action that imitates ideal forms on the purpose of art. Renaissance is remarkably influenced by the works of Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton, which allowed for a new understanding of the analyzed realities. While the 17th century came up with a new vision, namely that natural sciences become institutionalized and philosophies and methodologies, a century later, the need for deciphering the limits of the freedom of thought, also for identifying its meaning at a social and political level, was impetuously felt. Starting from this point, a complex searching process for finding the rational answers began. In Romanian culture, the idea of value and creation takes an important place in Lucian Blaga's philosophy, a vision which argues that man's destiny is to create and that the result of creation is building an artificial world. Creativity is the engine of cultural evolution, allowing differentiation and developing new fields that become more and more autonomous. In order to create something new and original, the individual contribution of the creator itself is as much needed as the evaluation made by society. In conclusion, creativity stimulates the evolution of society, which means progress as well as increased complexity in time. Thanks for your attention.